There's been a lot of content on YouTube lately talking about what are the best draft strategies and how effective they are and which ones are the best. And just like any other consumer fantasy football YouTube content, I sit back, I listen, and I try to implement it into real life strategies. So that's what I did. I started playing around, I started mocking, started testing out different examples that people called the best. And what I came across while doing that was I have the best strategy out of anybody on YouTube. In all seriousness, I found a draft strategy that works for every single person in fantasy football. This is not some kind of video where if you have picks 1 through 4 or you have picks 10 through 12, these are the picks you're gonna make and everybody else is screwed. I have step-by-step instructions, 5 steps to this fantasy football draft strategy, and it's going to work for every single one of you out there. I'm not even going to say it. You guys at home know what I'm about to say. Roll! Step 1, very simple. Draft a wide receiver. And this is simply, don't overthink this pick. If you play in a PPR league, you're going to want a wide receiver that puts up absolute insane point values every single week. It's not easy to guarantee grab that in the first round for a running back, but there's plenty of wide receivers that could get this job done for you. Obviously, if you're in the beginning of the draft, you want to be lucky enough to take Jamar Chase. Probably not going to happen for 99% of us. However, CeeDee Lamb is a great wide receiver pick in the first round. As long as Dak Prescott stays healthy, you're looking at elite wide receiver upside out of CeeDee Lamb. We forget how good he was just 2 seasons ago. And if you're not lucky enough to get a CeeDee Lamb in the beginning of the draft, you don't get Jamar Chase either. Justin Jefferson and Malik Neighbors are also fine options if you're in the middle of the draft maybe. If I am in the back of round 1, I'm looking for these players. Also looking for Nico Collins, Brian Thomas Jr., those wide receivers as well. But I'm also not afraid with my first round pick. If I'm at pick 11, pick 12, I will take Drake London as my first pick and be okay with that. Drake London may not be the name on everybody's big board. Maybe you could even get a better running back in round 1, arguably, but stay with me because in round 2, when it comes back to you, step 2 is going to be taking the best available running back. So if you were somebody that was going to take a running back in round 1 in the back of that round, in the front of round 2, you may have an opportunity to take one of those running backs. And if not a first round caliber running back pick, guys like Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, even Devon Achane, I'm not so much worried about the injuries right now. I'm not saying it's not a concern, but I am saying that he's still worth this draft pick here because of the upside. So if I'm in the back of the first round, just take the wide receiver and then worry about which one of those running backs will fall to you in round 2 versus trying to take the running back first and maybe you get left with a wide receiver you don't necessarily love. And of course, if you have another player, if you're a lot higher on Puka Nacua than I am, then take your player, of course. This is just a strategy and a way to build out your fantasy draft. If you're in the middle or the late second round, you could elect to go tight end if maybe a Brock Bowers, or take quarterback Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen if available. But if it's not those players you're taking, you're looking at Bucky Irving, Chase Brown, maybe even a Kyron Williams here towards the back of round 2. And before I go on to step 3 and explain what to do in round 3, I want to mention that there is one and only one exception to this rule of drafting a wide receiver in round 1, and that's if Bijan Robinson is there for you at 102. You're basically just going to flip steps 1 and 2 because in the back of round 2 there really isn't a value at wide receiver you can grab versus everywhere in the draft. You can probably grab a quarterback, maybe you want to go tight end and take Trey McBride at the end of round 2. That's all well and good because if you are following steps 1 and 2, you didn't get Bijan Robinson. Round 3, you're taking a quarterback that's still available if you're lucky enough, or a tight end, which is probably going to be George Kittle. In several mocks that I've done on different platforms, Sleeper, ESPN, Yahoo, George Kittle is consistently going to be available for you in the 3rd round of your draft, as long as you're not in anything above a 12-man league. And the reason why it's so important to take a quarterback or tight end here in round 3 is because ultimately the goal of this strategy is to avoid drafting wide receivers as much as possible in rounds 2 through 6. The reason why we want to do that is because once we really leave round 6, the running backs that start to become available are almost, not even dead zone would be a right word to describe it, almost a long shot to be a fantasy asset for you. And as we go through through and talk about the strategy, we're going to find out there's wide receivers in round 7, 8 that we can scoop up that can be real contributors to our fantasy team versus we could take a running back, we could take a mid quarterback, a mid tight end, and almost lose that 7th, 8th round pick because we didn't grab the tight end or the quarterback earlier. We didn't grab the running backs any sooner. We need to make sure we leave these rounds after round 6 with wide receivers here because there's still guys going in this tier that have an upside to be much better than what their ADP tells us. So we leave round 3 with preferably a quarterback or tight end. Usually end up getting George Kittle, and I'm totally fine with that. There's elite tight end upside in there, probably going to be their best pass catcher in this offense. In rounds 4 through 6, we need to make sure we draft 2 more running backs with our next 3 picks. And if you play in anything smaller than a 12-man league, like a 10-man, 8-man, you could afford to extend this range of grabbing 2 more running backs to probably the 7th round. But for those that play in a 12-man league, let's try to keep it to rounds 4 through 6. We need 2 running backs here. The running backs that I consistently get in mock drafts that I really like drafting in rounds 4 through 6 are Amarian Hampton, Travion Henderson, DeAndre Swift, Isaiah Pacheco, and even David Montgomery too. And if you weren't lucky enough to get those players, the options I like are Chuba Hubbard, Ken Walker, and even RJ Harvey as well. And that leads us with step 5, which is going to be drafting the rest of the wide receivers that we missed out on early in the draft. As crazy as it sounds, I've seen guys like Jalen Waddle and Tet McMillan go as late as these rounds, but that's not realistic in most drafts. So the guys I do like taking in this tier are Jalen Waddle, Rome Odunze, Jacoby Myers, of course, Matthew Golden, and Ricky Pearsall should have a great season, and he's going in a tier where we can definitely scoop him up and use him in our starting lineups right away. If you're not lucky enough with those players, I really like Emeka Egbuka, potentially Chris Godwin if we can get him back on the field soon enough, and Jaden Higgins as well could maybe make his way as the second wide receiver across from Nico Collins, and if Nico Collins misses time like he usually does, then Jaden Higgins could be a value. And now I understand, what about quarterback? We're going to have to punt the quarterback position because if you want to have the depth and complete build of having really strong running backs, an alpha wide receiver in the first round that you selected, a wide receiver 2 that you probably drafted in rounds 4 to 6 to go along with them, and really good potential wide receivers on your bench, you're going to have to miss out on quarterback. The reason why I don't love drafting a quarterback or a tight end to go with whatever you drafted in round 3 is because there's really no values in the middle round for a tight end or quarterback. I could make the argument that maybe Mark Andrews is that sweet spot value towards the end of round 7, but other than that, I don't think there's really a quarterback that is necessarily cheap. It's going to take you a pricey pick to get Jalen Hurts. To spend another pick on a tight end and you're missing out on running backs and receivers, such important positions, I don't think that's a smart idea. So when I take George Kittle in the 3rd round, the quarterbacks I'm looking to take are late round guys: Caleb Williams, Drake May, Dak Prescott, maybe Jared Goff if I'm lucky enough, and a sleeper quarterback that I like is JJ McCarthy. I mean, we're talking about an offense that had Sam Darnold be a really good quarterback. I would like to believe that JJ McCarthy could be pretty good in this system too. So maybe I didn't create the best draft strategy on YouTube that everyone's gonna go crazy for and win their championships with. I discovered a strategy that, yes, maybe I'm reaching according to the rankings. My strategy in theory, if you hit on your running backs, gives you multiple high-end running backs, a absolute stud wide receiver, and an elite tight end that gives you a positional advantage amongst your league mates. There's only so many of elite tight ends and so many elite high-end wide receivers to go around, and you get each one of them while knowing your running back position is pretty safe, so as long as you hit on those picks. The reason why I use this strategy, and I think it's so effective, is because if you notice, this is on all different platforms. Sleeper, Yahoo, ESPN is probably even the worst example I found, that rounds 2 through 6 is a flood of wide receivers. On my sleeper drafts, in 60 picks, the 5 rounds in a 12-man league, 26 and 27 of the 60 picks were wide receivers in each of those mock drafts. And it got even worse on ESPN. I did a 10-man league, 25 of the 50 picks were wide receivers. If we're taking wide receivers just like everybody else in this range, we can't possibly be getting a good value on these players because everybody's taking that position. So instead of following the rest of the pack, taking wide receivers in rounds 2 through 6, 6. We're taking a quarterback or tight end in round 3. We're taking 2 running backs in rounds 4 through 6. And after that, we'll worry about wide receivers, because as long as we get one after our star wide receiver in round 1, we're going to have depth at the position while still having really good components everywhere else, except quarterback or tight end, whichever one you faded. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Are you going to try this strategy out in a mock draft? Did you draft already, so I made this video too late for you? You could definitely let me know about that in the comments as well. If you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for supporting the channel. Outlier Militia, thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Turtle. This is Outlier Fantasy, and I will see you in the next video. Wow, you stuck to the end of this video? Thank you so much. If you're new here, make sure you check out one of these videos on the screen right now. And don't forget, before you leave, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any fantasy football videos on this channel. That's all I got for you guys. I'll see you in the next one.